Welcome from the deep. I am Mike the Finder.
And I am the dead disabled boy that Daddy didn't want.
I just want to say I am so disappointed in all of you. You all made that last podcast episode that we put out. If you haven't seen what I'm talking about, I'll link that up top here with a little info button and down below in the description.
Whatever do you mean, Mike?
The last podcast episode that we released was one of the biggest regrets of my life.
Yay! We were all here for it. You all made it happen.
And all of you made it the most watched video we've had in months. And we got tons of subs. All you did is reinforce this man's behavior.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's almost like I'm a much more enjoyable person to be around than you make me out to be. I am a pleasure. I am a gift to the world that brings joy and smiles to millions of Miracle Network kids around the world every year.
This is your fault.
God, I hope I get to do the I hope we get big enough to where I can start doing the Miracle Network and that character just becomes the thing that I show up to in hospitals. So I just get sponsored by Silly String. I want to be sponsored by Silly String. If somebody can get us a sponsorship to Silly String, I would really, really appreciate that.
So after this video, I am sure there will be more gimmick reviews coming.
Uh-huh.
And it will be your fault.
Yep.
But before we do any of those, let's actually do a real movie review here about a real movie.
I mean, I can go get a wheelchair real quick.
Today we're going to be talking about The Changeling from 1980. This is a movie that I didn't really know anything about. I had seen it around on different streaming services and things. The cover to this movie is like literally iconic. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Brett. I've seen it around for years, and it's been like on my to-be watch list forever. And one day my girlfriend sent me a link to a article. I'll put it down in the description if I can still find it, calling this one of the best horror movies ever made. And I was like, I mean, I've heard of it, and it's probably okay, but dude, no way. Because no one ever talks about this. Right. I've never heard anyone bring this movie up. I don't know about you.
No, I've seen
dog
it.
Next
I've seen
door
it pop up,
barking like crazy. So hopefully
I can't hear it.
Okay, all right. You probably can't in the recording, but all right. Sorry, go ahead.
I've definitely seen it on Tubi. I've seen it on Shudder. At least at one point I did see it on Shudder.
I think it's still on Shudder now. Yeah,
but I remember seeing this in Blockbuster because I'm old.
Yeah,
and in Hollywood Video, which was better than Blockbuster. And I remember seeing this on there. I never watched it, though, because up until you broke my brain on horror, I took no interest in, like, creature features. At least not consciously. Now, the Aliens franchise, as I've said before, is my favorite sci-fi horror franchise of all time. I even like the new ones. Go fuck yourself if you don't. So I've liked creature features. I just didn't know it. But this one sounds like it would be a creature feature. And it's not.
Yeah, it definitely had, like, the title and the cover make it look like it's this hardcore, like, not slasher, but maybe like ghost, like haunted house type thing. And that is kind of what it is. But it's sort of in a different way. This definitely has like the vibes of a 70s detective style movie, which is, I think, why I wanted to talk about this, is because this reminded me a lot. It's got a lot of the same vibes as 10 to Midnight did. If you haven't seen that, we reviewed that a little while back, and that's another really shockingly crazy good movie. But The Changeling, that article, I was like, there's just no way that this can be as good as they're saying it is. So we decided to do a review on it. I don't know about you, but I was pleasantly surprised by this movie.
I was thrilled.
Like, dude,
this movie,
George C. Scott is killer in this movie.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I would say if we were to compare this to a newer movie, just for those of you who like watch horror, and maybe like, or, you know, have watched or more into the ones that are like, you know, like late 90s to more recent ones, this one has The Ring vibes to it. But it did it first. And we'll get into some stuff about why that is. But overall, I got into this, and from the very beginning, I was like, okay, this is not what I really thought this was going to be. And as it went on, and the more I watched it, the more I went, this is really well done. Like, it's very, very well done. The haunted house aspects of this is how you do a haunted house movie. This right here, especially older haunted house movies where they try to go too much into the cheese, they try to go too much into the shock value. This movie genuinely creeped me the fuck out. Like, genuinely creeped me out. There are like scenes in this movie, and a lot of it's got to do with the camera work, which is fucking phenomenal.
Dude, it's amazing.
The camera work in this is so good. It is not over the top.
That's the thing that I was consistently shocked with how good some of the framing is. The lighting is good.
Dude, there is one scene specifically that stands out, and it is when he's in the closet and he is about to discover that hidden door in the closet. Dude, the camera work coming down, jibbing down, and then resting behind him, and then the buildup of tension. That is another thing this movie does amazingly, is build up tension. This shit is on like Alfred Hitchcock level of really controlling the suspense. It's one thing to implement suspense. It's one thing to want suspense, but to execute suspense so well and to control the suspense the way this movie does, dude, this thing is directed masterfully.
Well, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. The director is Peter Medic, and I, to be honest, didn't really know that much about him until I looked up his directing credits. And when you look at his directing credits, you're like, oh, he's been around forever, and he's been doing stuff forever. A lot of it is not stuff that is super popular. It's just none of this really feels that significant. The Babysitter's pretty good. I have seen The Babysitter.
Cosmic Princess.
Yeah, and Cry for the Strangers. It's just weird. The Men's Club. And then he starts moving into doing a lot of TV. He did some Tales. He did an episode of the Tales from the Crypt. Did a couple episodes of Kindred, The Embraced. I did 6 episodes of Homicide, an episode of Law and Order, Chicago Hope. Like, he did a Masters of Horror episode. 1 episode of Breaking Bad. Yep. So anyway, he's been around, but dude, this is phenomenal. And George C. Scott, for those of you that don't know, George C. Scott is another guy that was around forever before this movie was made.
He looks like Jack Lemmon in that screenshot.
If we go all the way back to his stuff, he goes all the way back to like the fucking 40s, dude, I think.
That guy,
51 was his first.
Yeah. He was around forever.
Yeah, he's been around forever. So, you know, this is just full of people with chops, and not necessarily people that are massively like famous. Awesome. And now there's
it's almost like if you do something for the passion and not the paycheck, something wonderful will happen.
Hey, he was in 12 Angry Men as juror number 3.
Well, oh, of course, juror number 3.
Everybody
my favorite of the 12.
Yeah, so these are all not in my wheelhouse. I'm going to be honest.
If you're going to watch 12 Angry Men, it should be for the third juror, the unnamed juror.
I mean, this is the biggest thing I know him for is being in A Christmas Carol, because he plays Scrooge.
Front face.
That's,
oh my God, I just realized.
What?
My resting mouth looks like him in that poster. Look.
It does kind of.
It's my resting mouth.
Well, that's what you have forward look. Well, that's what you have to look
Great.
forward to.
Great. That Ebenezer Scrooge has a lot of money.
And he's fucking miserable until he gets haunted by ghosts. So that sounds fun.
Would
for
you say he's miserable?
Okay, calm down, mister. So, anyway, the Changeling
Meister.
is... fucking ass. All right. The Changeling is, for me as well, I feel the same way. I was pleasantly surprised by this. This is one of those movies that you put on and you don't really expect too much from, because I thought this was going to be generally late 80s, generally late 70s to early 80s are not my favorite outside of horror. And so I was expecting this to be a horror movie. And when it kind of presented itself as not being one of those, I sort of checked out for a minute. But the more I continued to watch it, the better it got, even though it is very slow. The one thing that I really wanted to touch on, by the way, is the opening scene is so eye-catching. And that's the thing that I immediately was like, okay, I might actually be into this, because it reminded me of Sleepaway Camp. The opening to Sleepaway Camp, when those people get run over by the boat, and then it cuts to the kids later being raised by their aunts. It just has that, it has that immediacy of killing people instantly so that we can move on with the story. And it's really eye-catching. And it used to happen a lot more than it does now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's
a lot of tropes in this that don't happen as much anymore.
Well, I feel like a lot of those tropes exist because of this movie.
Well, movies like it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like there's like kind of a rule in horror that if it doesn't start with a murder of some kind, whether it be whether it be something, you know, crazy like Halloween, or it be something a little more tame like X, where we get that ingenious frame within a frame reveal. If it doesn't start with something like that, the rule of thumb is generally that it's not gonna be a good horror movie.
Well, I will say this. This is before the slasher boom. This is before what everybody thinks of as like 80s horror. So this has a very 70s mentality to it. And if you're not into 70s horror movies, you're going to think that this is really fucking slow and really dull and really boring, because you don't get the big like blockbuster horror payoff until the last 10 minutes of this movie, maybe. So if you're not willing to sit through all of the setup, I can see how somebody would think that this is really dull. I have now seen this twice, and on a rewatch, this is actually almost even better on a second viewing. So I will just say that if you're somebody that doesn't typically get into really slower, long movies, because I think this is, it's an hour 47. So this is a little bit longer than 90 minutes, the typical 90 minutes, especially back then. If you're not willing to sit with it, you're going to not really enjoy this as much. But for people that are willing to sit down and have this thing really unfold before you, and you can get behind the story that they're really telling, dude, this is really, really fucking strong. It's really fucking strong. And it's shocking to me that no one ever talks about this. A lot like Tin to Midnight.
Dude, I think a reason for that is because usually in horror communities, when people are talking about when you're talking about a horror movie that has a lot of traction to it, you're talking about something that's more cult status. And this is not a cult movie.
No.
This is a movie that is good. It's held in high regard because of all of the cinematic elements that make a good movie, and not just because, oh yeah, the acting was terrible, but did you see the way they made her arm look like it just came off of her body? Like, it's not that. This is almost like, it's almost like its own form of elevated horror, in the sense of horror being taken seriously as an art form rather than elevated horror as far as like some douchey concept to get your agenda across.
Well, what year did The Exorcist come out?
75?
73?
73.
So I just feel like that whoever made this, the guy that made this, what was his name? Peter Medak. I feel like he was really, and I got nothing to back this up off of other than me feeling like he's really inspired by movies like The Exorcist, really old school movies, really hardcore horror movies that are very serious, but are not necessarily, I mean, The Exorcist is over the top, but it has a very serious, it takes itself very seriously. And because of that,
it was praised by priests.
Yes, exactly. And so because of that, and here's the other thing. I didn't really know that this was going to be a ghost movie going into it. I didn't look up anything going into this. So finding that this was a ghost movie going into it, I was actually really surprised and down with that idea, because the premise behind the plot here is great. Do you want to give us a little plot synopsis here real quick, and then we'll jump over to IMDb, see what they say?
Yeah. The house is haunted by, going along the lines of my introduction, the dead disabled boy that daddy didn't want.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a spoiler, but yeah. The one sentence,
okay, then,
but so is this.
Let's go. Okay, all right, fair enough.
But so is this. The one sentence synopsis on IMDb is: after experiencing tragic personal losses, a music professor rents a Seattle mansion haunted by a slain boy.
Yeah. That okay, cool. I feel better because that is a
straight spoiler.
Is a major spoiler.
That's like the whole
major
thing.
Spoiler.
So I guess if you're watching this and haven't watched that, oh well.
But that's the thing, man. Is like they do such a good job of connecting the personal struggle with the ghost.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so often, like that aspect of this is ingrained into the evolution of the movie as we go through it. Whereas most movies that try to do that, we don't find out till like the end of the second or somewhere in the third act that, oh, this is happening because this ghost has a connection to this person for X amount of reasons. This we find out that, I mean, we know right off the bat that this dude has gone through something, and it's going to play a big part in how this ghost connects. Like it makes us aware right off the bat that this ghost is reaching out, which actually to me humanizes the ghost, while at the same time genuinely creeping me out. And I do mean that. This movie is one of the first movies in a long time that actually creeped me out. Like, dude, when that ball, after he threw the ball into the river and then it shows up in the house, I was like I got goosebumps like talking about it right now. That scene fucking hit hard.
The scene where she's mid-sentence and looks up the stairs and the fucking wheelchair is sitting at the top of the stairs.
Well, dude, and her delivery on that is
it's
fucking incredible,
amazing.
too.
Yes.
Where she just stops mid-sentence, and I'm creeped out already because she's staring at something off screen that we don't know. And if that was done today, it would have cut to a creature. It would have cut to an entity. It would have cut to something that they're trying to force an emotion out of, and instead they show something that is an inanimate object that is inherently creepy and sad, which is a wheelchair without a person in it.
Covered in cobwebs.
What's that? Covered in cobwebs. What's that old? I think it's a Louis C.K. bit where he's like I saw a wheelchair without a person in it. Something happened there. You hope it was a miracle.
Well, all of this reminds me, we didn't do a review for this movie, but we did both watch it to review it. All of this brings up the latest movie, Presence, for me. This movie made me think of Presence a lot because there's a lot of similar things going on in Presence and The Changeling. And in Presence, do you remember Presence? Do you remember that movie, the Steven Soderbergh
very well
movie? It was all shot on an iPhone. It came out last year, the tail end of last year.
Fucking garbage.
It was all on a gimbal and an iPhone. We both watched it and both disliked it kind of a lot. It was directed by Steven Soderbergh. This is what he's been sort of known for recently, is shooting stuff on phones.
Which is fine.
The
movie itself was bad.
But the movie was bad. And that's sort of what I'm talking about. This movie reminded me of Presence in a way of like, this is how you tell the story of the entity haunting the place that you're in. Because not only does the character that moves into the place have a significance to the situation that happened there unbeknownst to them, a lot like Presence, by the way, the entire movie is sort of spent figuring out, because in Presence, they bring somebody in. Do you remember all of this? They bring somebody in to try to help figure out what's going on. Yep. It's the same thing here. This is all tropey for ghost house movies. And like you said, they're all movies doing things because of movies like The Changeling. And I would be willing to bet if we were to go to a lot of these directors and say, name some of the best ghost movies out there, like haunted house movies, this would come up over and over again because it is so influential without being in the pop cultures. Like, I'm sure horror heads know what this is. This is not a major, like, mind-blowing, oh my God, this movie exists. It is sort of for me. But that's because this is not typically the type of movie that I would watch. And that is why I think it's so good. Presence was dog shit because the way that story unfolds it's like mindless. Bad. There's no thought.
That's a good word for it.
There's no thought that went into it. And the way that this movie takes the protagonist and wraps it in the scenario that happened, what is that, 80 years before current day? Dude, it's just masterful. Whoever wrote this, we didn't even go through who wrote it. This was written by Russell Hunter, William Gray, and Diana Maddox. The three of them wrote it. The script is phenomenal, and it's only and it is only stronger because of fucking George C. Scott.
Well, and dude, that's the thing is we've talked about it before. Like, supernatural horror is my favorite type of horror, and
I knew you were going to like this when I was watching it the first time. I was like, oh, he's going to be really into this.
When I thought this was going to be a creature feature, and so the best term to describe how I went into this was kicking and screaming. This was me going, okay, we're gonna watch another Mike creature feature. We're gonna watch a movie that I wouldn't normally watch had Mike not suggested / forced it.
What's funny about that is you're watching more horrible shit now than I am.
Well, okay, that is not my fault. That is not my fault. But you tend
to say that a lot.
That's because I'm really
everybody else's fault that you watch this horrible shit.
Listen, buddy, I became successful off of deflecting. I have watched so many disturbing movies in the last week. Cannibal Holocaust, rewatched that. I watched Solo, 120 Days of Sodom. I watched Audition. And the last two have the longest, and Irreversible. So these three have the longest grape scenes I have ever seen in my life. And nothing you make me watch will ever be bad again. So I really did you a favor. That's all to say, the movies that I would not normally watch make these ones even more enjoyable for me when they were already going to be enjoyable. Because it's not about the shock value. It's about telling a story, a unique story at that, and then executing it in a way that is not just enjoyable because you can get into the story, but also for those of us that can recognize the elements that make each scene so impactful. And every scene in this movie just seeps with creativity.
Dude, it's amazing. The set design is phenomenal. The fucking acting is incredible. The lighting is great. Dude, the
I'm gonna
camera
see if
work, the framing, the compositions, all of it, the way they move it. There's so many shots where I was like a shot where he's going up when he's first trying to find the attic and he's walking up through the hallways of the upstairs. It's amazing the way that they cut all of that together. The editing is, dude, all of it. It's just, this is just such a fucking well-made movie, and it's such a shame no one fucking talks about this movie.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone bring this movie up. So
no, I only know about it because I've seen it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's how everybody's going to feel. Like, I've seen this poster, don't really know what it is. Not everybody, but most people.
Yeah. No, we're the only ones. Yeah. We're the only ones. We're better than you, and you're going to have to learn to deal with that.
Yeah. We are your taste makers and influencers. You shall be influenced by us. So, I don't know. Do you want to go into specifics here? Because I don't really have anything specifically. I've watched this twice. I know it back to front at this point. I don't really have anything specifically I want to talk about other than, like, the plot is great. I really enjoy the writing, and it's just fucking go watch this.
I have one. I have one. There's one.
It's free.
Singular
it's on fucking Tubi. It's free. Go watch it.
Yeah. And if you use Vivaldi or Brave, you don't have to worry about the ads.
Yeah. I'll link it down below. Go watch it. Seriously.
I will say this. There is one scene, and one scene only, that I found to be, for lack of a better phrase, a little bit silly.
The seance?
No, actually. The wheelchair chase scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a little silly.
The peak cheese of this movie, I think.
But I also don't know how you achieve that part of the story without it playing out that way.
Now it would have been some CGI kid in a wheelchair, like making some bit all blue and making some horrible screeching sound. And
that's the thing, dude. Speaking of special effects involving kids, which now that I said that out loud sounds weird, and I should probably follow it up pretty quick.
The drowning scene.
The drowning scene.
Holy fuck, dude.
The drowning scene is amazing.
It ties into the sound that he's hearing every night.
The first time I got creeped out in this movie is the simplest special effects I've ever seen, and it is just a kid underwater. And it only works because it is on 35 millimeter film from the 70s, because this was made in 1980. I'm going to get nerdy and say it was made in 1980, which means the film stock was made in the 70s. It only works because of the elements going into making that scene. And it is creepy as shit, dude.
I mean, it's definitely one of the things about 70s movies is the vibes are just killer. And 80s movies vibes are cool too, but they are different. And this has 70s vibes all over it, like we've been saying. So yeah, it's definitely helped a lot by the film. There's a lot of chromatic aberration, and like, dude, it's just beautiful. The film grain, and not to get super nerdy about it, but it's gorgeous. It's so fucking pretty. Do you want to go ahead and give me your final thoughts and your ratings on The Changeling from 1980?
The Changeling it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. Not recently. Ever. Fucking ever, dude. It's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And it's because of how much they gave a shit. They cared so much, and they brought a story that it contains elements that are cliche with elements that are unique, and they made it into something that was incredible. And dude, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's a 9 out of 10.
God damn.
There's a couple. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
There's a couple things in there that keep it from being a straight 10. But dude, this is a 9, if not a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed it from the very beginning to the very end.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for me, it's a very similar story. I think that this is fantastic. I don't know if I'd say it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen, but it's definitely one of the best supernatural movies or ghost movies or haunted house movies, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever seen, for sure. This is like the blueprint for fucking everything that came out after it. And, you know, you can see its inspirations sort of like they're very open for you to see. But there's nothing wrong with that. And like we said, tropes exist because of movies like this. This is a movie no one talks about, and it's one of the creepiest ghost movies I've seen in a very fucking long time. The plot is phenomenal. I give a shit about the protagonist. I give a shit about the people that he's investigating that lived 80 years before it's taking place. I care about all of it. We didn't even touch on sort of the whole peak and climax of the plot and like the surprise ending that kind of goes out of it. I don't know, dude. Like, all of it is so well written and so well done. The cinematography is amazing. The lighting's great. The acting is above everything else. The acting is so damn good. Every single person in this movie kills it, and I loved it as well. I'm going to also, I think I rated this an 8 on Letterboxd, but I am going to raise this to a 10 after having, but I am going to raise this to a 9 out of 10 after having watched this twice now. So yeah, 9 out of 10. There are some things, you know, it's a little long and slow in some parts. That's it being a product of its time. That's legitimately all that is. So if you're willing to sit through it.
It's what the French would call laissez compétent.
Laissez compétent.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm pretty sure that's the French word for incredible, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. So anyway, have you seen The Changeling? What did you guys think about it? Thank you guys for watching this all the way through. If you did, we really super appreciate it. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we got more content on the page just like this. I swear to God, Brett, don't do another fucking hacky fucking... Great. That smile tells me everything I need to know. So, all right. Well, we will see you next time from the deep. Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.